Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know I am on the East Coast out here in the Washington, D.C. area, an area known as Nova or Northern Virginia. And I'm here to talk to you about goal setting. So what makes me an expert in goal setting? I probably achieved a lot of the stuff I wanted to do in life, and I had this real simple process. I went to the Air Force Academy right out of high school, and started my Air Force career when I graduated from there. And I'm old, you see all the gray hair, 1993, class of 1993 from the United States Air Force Academy. And they do teach goal setting at the Academy, and I learned it in high school, and hopefully I can share some with you. But what made me learn how to set goals wasn't going to a high performing institution like the Air Force Academy. In fact, the reason why I changed up the goal setting process a little bit was because I did do everything they told me and I wasn't happy. Straight up, I was not happy. So I said, there's got to be a better way for me to win. And so as I kind of went through life, I started seeing more and more that I had to have a better way of achieving what I wanted than what was taught to me. And so this is that process. You guys are getting like 30 years of somebody's sort of distilled wisdom into a 4-step process that I call get organized and launch, or goal. So when you're thinking about where you're going in the future, you have to remember there's one giant element of success that most people overlook, and that's focus is power. In today's world, you're going to multitask. You got your phone, you might be watching TV at the same time, you got your laptop open, you're on TikTok, you're on Insta or Snap or one of those, and you're probably doing it all at once. You got friends texting you here, you're taking selfies there. All of that is the best way to end up where you don't want to be. Sometime during every day, you need to focus. It doesn't have to be all day. It doesn't have to be on one thing, but sometime during every day, you should focus on one thing for that time, whether it's for 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. What you will learn through life that I learned is the more time I spent on one thing, the better I got at that thing. So focus is power. You'll see this again, because one of the things that helps us understand success is to define it. So you can't define it with somebody else's definition. You can't define it like, oh, my mom said, or oh, my dad said, or oh, my uncle said. Nope, nope, and nope. They're good places to start, but your job is to figure out what you want in your life and then define success based on that. So if you want to be a doctor, getting to become a doctor is one definition of success. Perhaps you want to cure cancer. That would be a definition of success. Perhaps you want to be a professional athlete. That's a definition of success. Perhaps you want to be an entertainer, right? If you want to be a singer or a rapper, that's a definition of success. But whatever you define as success, it's on you to make it happen. So I'm really serious. This is the hardest part, is what do you really want out of your life? And since most of you are teenagers, and a lot of you don't really know, it's okay to be patient with yourself. You may not have any idea who you are or what you want out of life. And that's cool. I'm not even trying to push you that way. Your parents might push you. Your teachers might push you. You got to decide. You got to decide. Let me be real with you. You don't need to know. If you do know, that's great. But if you don't know, it's not a problem. The problems come a little bit later. And that is when you take away your options. So options are awesome. And I love options. When you're 17 years old, 16 years old, you got a ton of options. I don't care how bad you did in school. I don't care how many times you've been in trouble. You still have options. So the question isn't if you have options, but what options are available to you. Because the more options you have, the more awesome your future will be. So you'll get to pick where you want to go to college. You want to pick up a trade like electrician, carpenter, HVAC, plumbing. By the way, those are incredibly lucrative right now. There's not enough tradespeople. So if you don't want to go to school, you can become an electrician and make $25, $30 an hour out the gate, and make more than that, depending on if you specialize in like being a lineman or being a journeyman electrician that works on homes or commercial property. Maybe you want to go in the military. All of this is available to you before you graduate, right? And then there are other things that I didn't mention that might be available to you. Like if you want to be a professional athlete and you couldn't get into a D1 school right away, community college and junior colleges will take you and help you get up to speed so that you can go to a D1 school. If you are, you find out that you want to try, become an electrician, you get into the electrician business and it's not for you, do something else. And finally, of course, you got school, and I'll just say this. A four-year degree is an expensive way to find out what you really want in life. So if you don't want to spend that much money before you figure it out, these other routes allow you to spend less money and perhaps figure it out before you commit a lot of dollar bills. I will tell you this though, that no matter which choice you make, you can always change your mind. See, one of the things about knowing about your future is if you don't know, you got to keep your powder dry. And that's an old saying. Way back in the American Revolution, we used to have what are called muskets. And muskets were called muzzle loaded. So you would actually have to put in powder, the gunpowder, and then you put in a little pellet or a ball, and you put that in and you pack it down, and then you would fire. And then you do it again. So if your powder was wet, it wouldn't flow into the barrel. You couldn't shoot your weapon. So the old saying is you would keep your powder dry. That meant you had the option to fire when you were ready. So you're in America. That means if you keep your powder dry, you can always invent and reinvent yourself with a decision. You don't need to be committed and be like, this is it for the rest of my life, I'm in. No, you don't need to be in for life. If you want to change your mind, change your mind. But keep your powder dry. Make sure that you understand that the biggest problems will always come when you limit your options before you decide. So let me tell you what limits your options. You get in trouble, you go to prison, right? Some people do not have many options while they're in prison. After prison, you have some options, but not nearly as many as if you don't go. So what I'm trying to tell you is make sure you check yourself, that you understand the decisions I make today either give me more options or limit my options. Now, it's America, so you can always invent and reinvent yourself, but it's way harder to do that if you make a bad decision that ends up with perhaps a long prison sentence. So one of the things that we understand about options is that the more options we have, the more we can explore different things. So knowledge is potential power. You used to hear the saying, knowledge is power. That's not really true. What's in here without being used is not really power. Until you use it, it's just knowledge. But the moment you apply it, that's when power really happens. So you got to be comfortable with using what you know to get what you want. If you know what you want and you know how to get it, then you have to take the action step. You have to apply that knowledge. So what you know is your key to achieving what you want, but you're going to have to do a little work. And this is where focus is power comes back. Because once you say I've defined success and I'm learning how to get it, this is when you begin to say, okay, how much of my day am I going to use exclusively on this thing? I get it. I get it. You're in high school, so you don't, you have to take a whole bunch of different classes. Well, here's what that means. It means if you got biology homework, English homework, and like math homework, do the biology for a period of time, focus, set that aside. Do the English for a little while, focus on just that, set that aside. Then do the math for a little while, then set that aside. Then come back to it if you didn't finish. But the more you focus, the more likely you are to complete what you intend to do. And it works the same after high school. You can take your energy and throw it in 5 to 6 different directions. But if you focus on one thing at a time, even if it's a short time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you become the most powerful person in the world. Taking an hour every day to learn what you say you want to know will make you a expert in a year or 2. And there's a limit. If you try to do 8 hours on one thing all day, you'll drive yourself crazy. Straight up, you'll drive yourself crazy. So focus has to come in chunks. You might start with a 5-minute or 10-minute chunk, and then you start building up and building up, and pretty soon, because you have knowledge, you will be able to apply it properly. And when you have focus, your key to power is just about there. So we know what we want. We've defined success, and we know how to get it. So now you got to prepare yourself. This is where you need to gather whatever material you need to gather. You need to, if you need money for college, if you need gear for sports, if you need to pick up whatever you need to pick up in terms of like for a trade, if you got to get the equipment and personal protective equipment, prepare yourself, because it's going to be work. Because you want to go get it. So you got to be like, I'm not going to say nothing. I grew up in Portland, and I grew up in Northeast Portland. So I didn't have a lot of money growing up. So when you don't have a lot of money, time is your ally. Time is your friend. Time is what you have a lot of. So you got to be willing to invest your time if you don't have a lot of money. And that is where you're gathering resources. How much time do I actually have? If you got to get a job and you still want to go to school, how much time do you have for school? Make your workload reflect that. What you got to do is you got to remember that whatever you do, if you don't have the right resources, you're not going to get there from here. So let me tell you, a lot of dudes on Insta, a lot of girls on TikTok, they look like they're overnight successes. And some of them kind of are. But 99.9% of the people you see as successful, they worked for a long time. The old saying is it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Do not believe anybody who told you they just showed up and one day they were just viral. Anything you want will take time. So don't check on what everybody else did, because you're not seeing the background. You're not seeing all the things they went to. You got people out here who saying they're self-made millionaires, and what they're not telling you is they had somebody helping them with a loan, somebody helping them with their first lease, somebody helping them with their first transaction. You don't see all that. All you see is somebody just showed up. So don't buy the lie. There is no such thing as overnight success. If you want it, it was going to take time. Don't check on everybody else. But if you define success, you now know what it takes. You have the definition of success. You have the knowledge of what it takes to go get it. You're prepared. You have all the resources that you need, including time. And now all you got to do is go get it. Go do it. Do your best at every step and crush it. This is how you crush it. You got to remember that when you're doing the thing you said was success, when you're preparing for it, that's your game time. That's your Super Bowl. That's your effort of a lifetime. Again, you're not going to do it all at one time. So you can't become a professional athlete and think that you spend 8 hours a day in the gym for a year, you're going to make it. It's going to be like Kobe Bryant. It's going to be like Michael Jordan. It's going to be like LeBron James. It's going to be like Bill Russell. They worked out years and years and years. Repetition is key. They were training their bodies, training their brains, training their spirits, making sure they were ready. So when it came time, they could crush it. But they crushed it in practice. In your practice, depending on what you choose, might be, I was in the military for 20 plus years. It might be that crushing it, your game time, is when you're back in barracks, when you're back at the home station before you ever go to war, and you're preparing, and you're doing all the training and all the drills. That might be when it's game time, not when you're actually in front of the enemy, not when you're on the court, not when you're in the courtroom as a lawyer. It's all the prep time. This is where you crush it. This is where goals get accomplished. It's in that quiet time when you're by yourself and you have to be the one that says, the thing that I said I want is worth my time and focus to go get. You will have up and down. You will be frustrated. You will want to give up. And anybody who told you that they didn't want to give up on what they were trying to do, they lying. I'm telling you right now, they're straight up lying. Everybody who does something hard wants to give up. And it's okay to say it to yourself. Just don't actually quit. You'll get frustrated. You're like, man, I've been working and grinding and working and grinding. When am I going to have my break? Your break isn't when somebody comes to you. It's when you come through the crust of not knowing what you were supposed to know. So you might have layers of knowledge you're supposed to uncover. And as you get closer and closer to the top of that knowledge, you'll break through. But before then, you may end up giving up. Don't. Believe in yourself, believe in your prep, and you will crush it. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you define success right, if you believe in yourself, if you have all the knowledge you're supposed to have, or you're on the path to learning that knowledge, nobody can stop you. This is how you achieve everything you do. This is how you become a winner. You set that goal, and then you believe in your prep, and you crush it. And you crush it in the quiet times, at night when you're up late. And Kobe Bryant used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for his first workout of the day. And he would work out 2 more times through the day. He would work out for 3 hours, rest, eat, work out again for 2 hours, rest, eat, and then work out for 2 or 3 hours again and rest and eat and go to bed. Up at 4 a.m., went to bed by like 10 o'clock at night. He got about 5, 6 or 7 hours of sleep every night. He was doing that because he knew that's where you crush it. You don't crush it on the court, you crush it in practice. And then you just rely on your training. You rely on everything you've got. So this is how you do it. 4 simple steps. You define success. You know how to get it. You prepare for it. Make sure you have all the resources, and then you crush it. You crush it in the quiet hours. Of course, when game time shows up, you'll crush it, but you don't have to think about it. Your body, your brain, and your spirit will all be ready to go hard for the entirety of that game, whether it's in the courtroom, whether it's in surgery as a surgeon, whether it's on high tension lines as an electrician, whether it's critical repair and plumbing, whether it's in the military and you're a fighter pilot or a special operator like a SEAL or a pararescue jumper. Well, doesn't matter. If you do the training, if you believe in yourself and you know what you're supposed to do, you will win every time, and you will win forever. Do you have any questions?
That was really good. That was really good. I think you can, if you want to